This is a homily for the sixth Sunday in Ordinary Time, Year C. Our first reading comes from the book of Jeremiah, chapter 17, verse 5 to 8. Whom do I trust? Whom do you put your trust in? This is the question that the first reading begs today. Jeremiah says, "Cursed is the man who trusts in man and makes flesh his arm." Cursed is the man who trusts in man. Who do you trust? Whom do you trust? It's either we put our trust in this world or trust in ourselves or ability. And the gospel speaks today about the Beatitudes. The Beatitudes. From Luke, we listen to the Lucan version of the Beatitudes. And Beatitude comes from the Latin beatitudo and the Greek makarios, which means happiness. If we want to be happy, both readings are saying our happiness depends on whom we trust, on whom we put our trust in. And Jeremiah is prophesying today that if we want to experience failure, if we want to experience disappointment, if we want to experience regret, then we should put our trust in man. But if we want to experience true happiness, if we want to experience true satisfaction, if we want to experience the real essence of our existence, then we should put our trust in the Lord. You see, many people live and they tend to trust, first of all, themselves, which is not bad. But they tend to trust totally in themselves, in their abilities, in their potentials, without trusting God. Many people live, they tend to trust in their love relationship, their spouse, their children, their workmates, their friends, leaving God behind. And that is the point today we are trying to make. That the only being you can trust, the only person you can trust, total trust, is God. Human beings are unreliable. Human beings are like the weather, they change at any time. And so when you put your trust in human being, woe to you. When you put your trust in your properties, woe to you. When you put your total trust in your children, in your husband, in your relationship, woe to you, because they will disappoint you. They do not have that capability, to keep to their promises. And Jeremiah is saying, do not put your trust in man. Do not put your trust in horses, in chariots, those things that make you feel that you are strong enough to do without God. Do not put your trust in. Some of us, we put our trust in our intelligence. We put our trust in the fact that we can walk well, we do our duty well. We are professional in our fields. We put our trust in it, but that will fade. Jeremiah says, it's like a shroud in the desert. A shroud in the desert. Imagine, there's no roots, there's no water, there's nothing. And this is a danger in our world. Many people trust totally their relationships, their husband, and they leave God behind. And when something happens, then they don't know what to do. They are like the shroud. They died because there's no root. And so today we are called to trust God. You know, even when you read Deuteronomy chapter 11 verse 26 to 28, Moses said to the people, "Behold, I am setting before you today blessing and curse. It will be a blessing if you obey the commandment of God. It will be a curse if you do not obey the commandment." And Deuteronomy 30 verse 15 says, "I have set before you life and prosperity, death and disaster." We need to trust God. You should not trust in man at the exclusion of God. That is the point. You can trust human being to some extent. You can trust human being to some extent. You can trust your potential to some extent. But when you exclude God, when you replace God with human being, with your potential, then there is problem. You know, Jeremiah was making this prophecy during the time when Israel were trusting in Egypt and not God, because they wanted to form alliance with Egypt to fight their enemies. And Israel was trusting in their horses. They have powerful horses and chariots, and not God. They think they will win their battle. Unfortunately, they could not. So if we want to be happy, we have to trust God. And that is where the Beatitudes comes in. You know, the Beatitudes today from the Gospel of Luke chapter 6 verse 17 to verse 17, 20 to 26. Mind you, the gospel is addressed not to the crowds, but to the disciples, to you and I, who are followers of Christ, you baptized person. And the gospel says that, then fixing his eyes on the disciple, he said, implying that the sermon is meant for those who have already decided to follow him. Jesus wants them not to allow themselves to be harassed to the things of the world. And you know, St. Luke has taken some of this point, you know, and he's emphasizing them in his own Lucan narrative. The words are addressed, you know, to the poor, the hungry, the suffering. There are plenty of people in the world who are poor, who are hungry, and who are suffering. Perhaps we are among them. If so, the Beatitudes are addressed especially to us. And in the case in which we find ourselves poor, the attitude we are called is to trust in the Lord. In a situation where hunger hits, we are called to trust in the Lord. In a situation where we are struggling for justice, for righteousness' sake, we are called to trust in the Lord. You see, the Beatitudes turns upside down everything. The world ordinarily celebrates success or achievement. You know, this is, you know, what Jesus is doing is known as the messianic invasion. If we cannot honestly count ourselves among the poor, the hungry, and the suffering, we can do more than just to take heart and warns and the warnings that follows. We can remember that the Beatitudes here are especially addressed to the poor and the hungry. We can take up the invitation to do something about the situation of the poor and the hungry if we are rich, if we are well-to-do, if we could help them. We can recall that we, the comfortable people with resources at our command that are denied to others, are called to be the instrument of the kingdom of God, a kingdom that is of justice, love, and peace. So the prophet, in fact, warned about social injustice, and that is why the second part of the Beatitude is woe to those who are enjoying now, those who are laughing now. And it's not because it's bad to laugh, but it's because they do not pay attention to injustice. And because they do not pay attention to injustice, their laughter becomes a moment of sorrow for them later on. And St. Luke continues to say that woe to you that are rich, for you have received your consolation. Again, the inability to share what you have with those who are hungry. Woe to you that are full now, for you will weep. Again, you see, the attitude here is that you are full of yourself. You do not need God. You place God on the other side. And woe to you when men speak well of you. This was the attitude of the false prophet. They were spoken well of. And Jesus is saying we should be careful. We should be very careful. If we want to be happy, really, then we need to know that living the life of the Beatitude is very important. To be poor in spirit, blessed are the poor in spirit, not only material poverty, but that act of total dependence on God. That is being poor in spirit. To be hungry, to be hunger for justice. When you are hunger for justice, there are a lot of injustice in the world. Many people in the prison that have not done what they are accused of. And we have lawyers who studied law only to defend injustice. This is sad. And the Beatitude says that no, we are called to fight against these things. If we want to be happy, if we want to live the blessed life, the life of the Beatitudo, the Macarius. And he said, blessed are you when men hate you, and when they exclude you and revive you and cast your name, and they say all kind of evil things against you. Rejoice, because you are actually doing the right thing. That is why they don't like you. That is why they speak evil of you. That is why they want to destroy you. Jesus said, rejoice, for your reward is great in heaven. So as we celebrate today, the 6th Sunday in Ordinary Time ESC, again, the call is, whom do I trust? And if you want to be happy, trust God. If you want to live the Beatitude, then live them as an attitude of a Christian life. The Beatitude should be our attitude as Christians. And so as we celebrate today, let our trust be on God. Depend on God. Because dependence and trust is not a sign of weakness, but actually it's a sign that the one whom you put your trust in is greater than material things, is greater than man. And that is why you'll be like a tree planted by the side of a river that will produce much fruit and that will not die. May God bless you as we celebrate this day, Sunday, and may you live to experience the love of God as you trust Him. God bless you and have a blessed Sunday.